Hey, this is Bronze and Modern Gods. As always, I'm John, and that is Richard.
Hi, John. How are you doing today?
I'm great. I want to thank everyone that's joining us today, all the new people. We hit 1,000 subscribers last week.
Thank you so much.
That's insane. Is that crazy?
That is nuts. That is so well appreciated. Thank you, everyone, for watching us and putting up with our insane nattering.
I mean, who would have thought a year ago that two people that just were bored in quarantine wanted to start a comic book show would have 1,000 people that gave a crap, but here we are. Hey, if you're not following us on Facebook and Instagram, by the way, why not? It's Bronze and Modern Gods. Visit us at bronzeandmoderngods.com. Give us a like, subscribe, reviews, you know the whole deal. Today, Richard, we have a fiery topic. Ultimate Fallout 4, the Djurjevic variant versus Amazing Fantasy 15. It is insane that we're even comparing the two, but that's what we're going to do today. Which is the better buy? That's going to give you more bang for your buck. Both of us have thoughts. They don't necessarily line up. We'll find out why. We also have viewer mail, our 25-year-old underrated books of the week, and we're starting it off like we always do with the hot book of the week. Of all things, Spidey Super Stories #1. Now, you know, Richard, this book is a joke book, right? For longtime collectors like us.
Right. I can't believe we're talking about this book.
But yeah, here we are. Spidey Super Stories was a spin-off in the mid-70s, early to mid-70s, that was produced by Marvel in cooperation with a TV show on PBS called The Electric Company. Now, Richard and I, of course, know what The Electric Company is.
Oh, yeah.
We know Morgan Freeman, a.k.a. Easy Reader. We know what this was about. But for the people, you youngins out there that may not know what the heck The Electric Company is, it was a show that really taught kids that were grade school how to read and the importance of reading. And this was a comic book geared to that kid audience. Simplified stories. You even had later appearances by Thanos in his Thanos copter, which is hysterical. He gets away in his Thanos helicopter. Dr. Doom, which, Richard, I can't believe you don't have this issue.
That is awesome. I need that issue. I definitely need that issue.
It's your two favorite things, Dr. Doom and Star Wars. And even Moondragon, if you want to throw that in there too for your third favorite thing. But what we're talking about is issue 1. Now, last week, we covered a show in Westlake, Ohio, Cleveland area, where Richard lives. Richard went, had fun. Someone else went, a YouTuber that is named, I hope I'm saying this right, Mercernaut. He also went to that show and found a Spidey Super Stories. #1, was flipping through it and saw this. Yes, that is not Miles Morales. That is a character named Dwayne, who is the first Black Spider-Man in comics. Now, Mercernaut went on the Tales from the Flip Side show, which if you're not watching that, you really should, and you should subscribe to them as well. And he made a YouTube video showing his discovery on Sunday. Well, what has happened since then? Since Sunday, 63 copies of this book have sold. Now, to give it a comparison, the week prior, the 7-day period prior to that, 1 copy had sold. So if we were another podcast, we would say a 6,300% increase in copies sold, correct?
Yeah, we would.
We're not that podcast, so we're going to say 1 versus 63. So when I told you about this, Richard, you had an interesting reaction. I did not expect this reaction from you.
It's while it is a fact that there is a African American wearing a Spider-Man costume, I really don't see him as in the role of Spider-Man like Miles Morales is. This is to me an interesting footnote in comic book history, but not necessarily an event, like I would say for Ultimate Fallout 4.
And it is a dream sequence. I mean, there's that. But there is a precedent for this. In Spidey Super Stories #11, there was a Black Spider-Woman. And that book sells routinely for over $100. Now, prices on this are all over the place. Some people seem to be hip to it. Some people don't seem to be. So if you look at the past sales, it's everything from, fine, very fine copies selling for $5 or $6 to 9.8 selling for 600 or more. So I think it's kind of still getting some sort of traction. Richard, you're very skeptical. I'm shocked. I thought you would jump all over this, but I'm surprised to be wrong.
No, I'm very skeptical. It's I kind of call shenanigans on this thing. It definitely is something there, and I'm not discounting that. Its significance is what I am really. I'm not seeing $600 worth of value in that one particular panel where he shows up. So I am skeptical about this being a long-term spec. Now, in the short term, we've seen a lot of demand for this book, and that demand is there. So if you have copies of this book, now's not a bad time to sell. I just don't see there being a lot of interest in this in, let's say, 6 months. But I could be completely wrong. But
let me be the counterpoint here. This was a kid's book, as we've known and seen from things like Batman Adventures number 12. Books made for kids do not survive in high grade over the years. And this book is from 1974, which predates Peter Parker, the Spectacular Spider-Man, the first official Spider-Man spin-off title. So this is really the second Spider-Man title ever for Marvel. So you've got two milestones there. Besides, the Dwayne Miles Morales dream sequence thing happening inside. So I can see super high grade 9.4, 9.6, 9.8s going for some coin. Are they going to bring all boats up? I don't know. It just is a tough book right now to get a beat on.
No, it really is. Like I said, there is value there. Regardless of people attaching significance to that appearance because of the reasons you just mentioned. And there's some other really interesting books in this series. It's I just get the feeling that this is a thing because of the situation we are in now, where people are looking. It's this echo chamber where people are just build interest and excitement about whatever they can because their choices are limited for entertainment.
Well, let me give you one more reason why this is an important book. It's also the first appearance of Morgan Freeman as Easy Reader.
Yeah, he's actually on the cover of the book in the corner saying that it's approved by Easy Reader.
And I tell you, he's looking good. He's looking fly in his bell bottoms.
I'd love to hear his opinion today of his appearance back then. It would be really interesting.
I love it. Well, we'll keep an eye on it. And we want to know what you guys think. Make sure you let us know in the comments below. And you can also send us some, what is it time for? Viewer mail.
You've got mail.
Our first piece of viewer mail comes from Colton Gould, who says, "Good afternoon, gentlemen. First off, I love the podcast, and it has become my new favorite podcast." Why, thank you. The question leans into John's wheelhouse a little more than Richard's, but what comics would y'all recommend before watching Falcon and the Winter Soldier? I'd like to start reading the storyline before it comes out. Well, definitely, I would say the Captain America run by Ed Brubaker, starting with issue 5 with the reintroduction of Bucky as the Winter Soldier, is a great place to start. Now, from there, it is a years-long storyline that sprawls out across multiple volumes of Captain America. You can't let it get over issue 25 or something will happen, I think. You always have to reboot it. So you've got that. You've got Sam Wilson, Super Soldier, or Sam Wilson, Captain America, when he takes over. That's an important book, an important series. You actually have a Falcon and Winter Soldier miniseries that came out as well. So there's lots of reading there. But for my money, I think I would start with Captain America number 5 from the Ed Brubaker run.
Mine is from Fred Bruno. Inside the new COVID relief bill, there is a new requirement for 2022 requiring resellers on platforms like eBay to file a 1099 with the IRS for sales totals exceeding $600. Current limits are $20,000 or 200 transactions. Do you think this will impact the comic book reseller market? Will it affect, will prices increase? Will there be less sellers? Is eBay even a viable platform for comic resale anymore? Excellent, excellent questions.
I think we both can answer that last question together. 1, 2, 3. No.
No. Both John and I have ceased our selling of books on eBay, full stop. eBay, I think, in anticipation of government rule changes, has discontinued our ability to use use PayPal as the primary source, and now requires or for transactions, and now requires all sellers to associate a real bank account with their eBay account, where eBay can deposit money directly into the account, and also, if necessary for refunds, take money out of your account. It is pretty draconian, and it is the only option you are given as a eBay seller. Given my past history with eBay sales and understanding their primary focus on delivering services for their customers, not services to not supporting their resellers. I do not want them having access to my account, especially if you're going to resell big books. If you're selling $10 books, $15 books, it's not a huge situation to have that kind of relationship. But if I'm selling a $5,000 comic book, $10,000 comic book, which is not unheard of on eBay, to have that kind of reaching into your finances, I think is just not tenable. And the whole concept of taxes is also, as you mentioned, is something that's going to be a problem. You could buy and sell on eBay without the concern for recording your transactions for tax purposes up to that limit of $20,000. Now, $600 is not a hard thing to reach, even for a casual seller selling books through the course of the year. And now you're going to have to file taxes on those profits. It's a tough sell when there are other options out there. You've got Facebook sales, you've got Instagram live sales, you've got Mercari. Well, they may at some point be help beholden the same way, but there are other options other than eBay to buy and sell comic books. And I think the writing is on the wall for eBay as a primary source for comic book sales. There are just too many other options that don't have some of the restriction that eBay has. The only thing eBay brings to the market right now is the size of their audience.
All they have is reach.
Yes, that's all they really have.
And to be very clear, you've always had to pay taxes on your earnings. I mean, do people do it? You tell me. I'm not going to comment. But you've always had to do it. But now, tying your bank account directly to your eBay account, besides the points Richard mentioned, how many data breaches has eBay been involved with in the past 5 years, where I've gotten an email from eBay saying your data may be compromised, we're working on it, don't worry, but change your password. I've lost count, and now you want my bank info? No, thank you. I'm going to pass on that. And you've got short boxed, which is less of a commission. Yeah. You've got all these other options, and eBay as a seller, I can tell you it's a nightmare. Giant size X-Men #1. I sold that. I think I've talked about this before. I had to list it twice because the first guy who won it never replied, never did anything. He just wanted to screw around. I've sent books before where the buyer has opened the package and if the book was swapped out with something. No, it wasn't. And luckily I had filmed myself boxing the book up at the post office in front of a postal employee. And so I had that on my side. If I had not done that, I would have really been in trouble. So I hate that eBay automatically sides with the buyer. As a buyer, it's great. As a seller, no, thank you, ma'am. We're going to move on.
It's such a fragile environment for the seller, because all it takes is, every buyer, I don't want to go too deep into eBay sales with this, but every buyer is looking at your percentage of your feedback, and if it's less than 100%, people automatically question you. So there's a lot of things that make eBay not necessarily the most friendly environment for a seller, and these rule changes are going to, I think, be the last nail in the coffin now that eBay has also changed the way that they handle transactions by digging into your bank account.
If you see any huge keys on eBay, it's usually because it's a marketing moment for an auction house or for someone. Maybe it's not even a place for you to sell an Amazing Fantasy 15 or an Ultimate Fallout 4 Drajevic variant, which is our main topic that we're going to talk about today, which is something that Richard brought to my attention, which I can't even believe we're having this conversation. It's compelling. The Ultimate Fallout 4 Drajevic variant in 9.8 is now comparable to an Amazing Fantasy 15 in 3.0.
That is just unbelievable. It's unexpected that a modern book, a book that's about 10 years old, has reached that kind of pinnacle. Now, this conversation I originally heard, just to give credit where credit's due, I originally heard this conversation as I was watching other YouTube channels. One of my favorite channels that I enjoy watching is Tales from the Flip Side, the Modern Playbook, and a bunch of guys on that show are we're friendly with, and
we've been on it.
Yes, we've been on it actually as well. So watching the show, and the conversation came up about Ultimate Fallout 4 Drajevic version is selling for about at 9.8 $14,000. For that $14,000, you could also buy a 3.0, a lower grade copy of Amazing Fantasy 15. And the question was, if you had that kind of money, which one would you buy? Would you spend the money on curtain number 1, which is the Drajevic version of Ultimate Fallout, or would you spend it on an AF-15? And it was a kind of a divided audience. The people had different reasons for their choices. I'm curious, John, if you had that money in your pocket and you had to buy one of these two books, now I'm not saying you have options to buy other ones because there are other options, which would you pick?
Oh, Amazing Fantasy 15. Absolutely zero hesitation on my end.
Really?
None. It can have Marvel chipping. It can have a chunk out as long as it's a 3.0. It's never going to go ever going to go down, and always going to go up, period. Just no contest. Now, I know it sounds like I've drawn a really definitive line in the sand here when it comes to me, but you put forth a couple of compelling arguments for the other side.
Yeah, I've given this a lot of thought, because at first I was in your camp saying the AF-15 is one of the two books, the other one being Fantastic Four #1, the two books that I consider the end game for Grail hunts, right? Mm-hmm. So those two books are just so important to the collector market, and as you say, they always have value. People throw around blue chip as a phrase for investment purposes. Those, it's a blue chip book. But we're living in a world now where the audience is changing and their focus is changing, and we've got people who are growing up reading comic books, are watching the Marvel movies, even more importantly, and Peter Parker isn't necessarily their Spider-Man. Yeah. Peter Parker is a Spider-Man, but who they associate with is Miles Morales. It's because Miles Morales is more in touch with their lives and the things that they see value in, and they can identify with Miles Morales more than they can with Peter. And Peter has been upgraded over the years to try to stay in touch with the audience as it changes. But I really think the Into the Spider-Verse movie really just kind of cemented Miles Morales as one of the important Spider-Men in the Marvel universe. Mm-hmm. So this Drajevic version is a fairly rare book. It's not like 500 copies out there, kind of rare, but it's still difficult to come by. And this price that it's achieved of $14,000 for the 9.8, I think is nowhere even close to where it's finally going to settle.
One thing to remember in the defense of this book, this Ultimate Fallout 4 variant, it was a 1 in 25 variant before 1 in 25 variants were a regular recurring thing with every single book that came out. And you also have to remember the Ultimate Universe at this time, 2014. It was on its last legs. It was over. It was ending. And this was kind of a last ditch effort to inject some life into this universe and bring something to it. And orders were up, but they weren't up like when this thing launched with Ultimate Spider-Man #1 back in 2000. You know, it was completely different. It was at the tail end. So you have, I don't know how many Ultimate Fallout 4s were ordered. Do you happen to know that? Probably 100,000 or so.
Correct. Yes, I believe the number was around 90,000.
Now take a quarter of that, and you've got a very smaller number under 25,000. And then under that 25,000, how many survived in 9.8? How many were dinged? How many were damaged in shipping? How many people didn't know how to press or and threw in this book?
Whoa, boy, you're really harping on that, aren't you?
That's just I had a personal thing happen in the last week with someone who didn't know how to press. But okay, but you know, I kind of see it now. I think what we might be looking at here is room to grow.
Right.
Is AF15 and 3.0, does it still have a lot of room to grow versus this Jurjevic variant exponentially growing? You know, it may grow twice as fast as an AF15 3.0, which is growing steadily, you know, like the tortoise and the hare. Mm-hmm. What's going to hold, though, I think is my question.
This is valid. It's a valid point. You know, we're talking about comparing a top grade UF4 versus a low grade AF15, right? Mm-hmm. So it definitely is not apples to apples, but I think the trajectory in terms of increase in values comparatively is in favor of the UF4. I believe that that Djevic version is going to continue to see increases in price. We never thought that, you know, the regular version of this Ultimate Fallout 4 just recently topped $3,000, and I don't think that's even close to its cap. Not even close. We haven't seen the next Spider-Verse movie. We haven't seen Miles in the MCU, even though we're hearing rumors about casting for Miles Morales. Once we see him on the film on screen, either in live action or on the animated show, the prices that as they stand now are going to seem like child's play. We're going to see a meteoric rise in the value of these books. So $14,000 today could easily be $20,000, $30,000 in 2 years from now. I've given up trying to understand where the ceiling for this particular book is, and I see there's a lot of energy and activity around this book and the books related to it. While AF15, it's a solid player. You know, it's the standard stock. You know, if you want to buy GM stock or Ford stock, you know, there you go. It's going to make money over the long term, but it's safe money. It's not necessarily going to be a huge increase in your investment. While if you pick Ultimate Fallout 4, you're going to see a more rapid return on your investment. And even if it's not at the trajectory I'm talking about, I really have a hard time seeing this book retreat down below the values that it is now, just long term.
So risk versus reward really is what we're talking about here. And I also think we have to still consider, we say it almost every week now, it's becoming our mantra, what's going to happen when things reopen? We know AF15s are scooped up and held. They are held tight. Mm-hmm. People, it's hard to shake those off a collector's tree. The Jurjevic variant, maybe it's the same thing, but people are getting stimulus money now. They're going to go back to work. They're going to be protected somewhat. July 4th, we're being told we can be back with our families potentially for celebrations. What happens when that stimulus money runs out? You're back to work. You've got bills to pay. Life is back to normal. You want to go on vacation. Oh, there's that Jurjevic variant that I've had forever. You know what? This is a good time to get rid of it and make some money. Whereas an AF-15, oh my God, no, that's the first Spider-Man. You're going to pry this from my cold dead finger.
But that's you talking, John.
It is me.
Yeah, I mean, if you had both books at the same time, you would. I know you would sell the UF4. No, you know, but you know, we're talking about one or the other, and if you are looking for this book to satisfy your desire for it to be a part of your personal collection,
Yeah,
it boils down to which Spider-Man did you grow up with?
Mhm.
Did you grow up with Peter Parker, or did you grow up with Miles Morales? You grew up with Peter. That to you in your mind's eye is the definitive Spider-Man, and that's completely valid, because in my mind's eye, before Miles came around, that was my concept too.
Yeah.
But as an African American, and someone who has lived a life that can understand the trials and tribulations that Miles has to go through, that may be different from Peter's. I wish when I was a kid I had Miles Morales. If Miles Morales was around,
Spidey Super Stories #1.
Oh no!
You just didn't know it.
I just didn't know it. If I had Miles when I was growing up, that would be my Spider-Man, and this conversation would still pan out the same way. I would pick the UF4. I think just from there's so many aspects of Miles that are just have not been tapped yet.
Yeah, it's funny because you make me think of something that you and I can both relate to very easily. Neither one of us cared for Barry Allen or the Flash. Zero time for the Flash, right? Who cares?
Right.
Old school DC, whatever. Wally West comes along, relaunched by Mike Barron and Jackson Geis. You and I are all over it. Remember how much we loved that?
Oh yeah.
He won the lottery. It was like this really, realistic, grounded Flash, and it ran for years. And Wally West was our Flash.
Exactly.
But what happened? After a while, you get Mark Waid and Jeff Johns back, and they're like, Barry Allen's the real Flash, and they jettison poor Wally back to where he was, and here we are with Barry Allen as the Flash again. That's my fear with Miles, and it's probably unfounded because it's probably very different than this example.
I think so, and also I think we have a Marvel's multimedia now. Yeah. Marvel is not just the comic books. They are, the animated series. They're the live action movies. They're video games. They span the spectrum of media, and I think they've identified that Miles Morales appeals to a segment of the market that they may not have appealed to previously.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
And so there is a great potential for revenue from Miles. So they're not going to let Miles cool down just because they could see the money that he as a character can generate. Just like they're not going to let Wolverine not show up in the MCU.
Are you saying DC underestimated the value of white lottery winners in their demographic?
Maybe they did. Maybe they did.
If only they had stuck with it, they would have that demo locked down. What do you guys think? Obviously we've got opinions of our own. They differ here and there. I sway back and forth between the two books. I still say at the end of the day, I would have that AF-15 just because it's such a legendary book. And, I remember seeing pictures of the cover, and on that one little box at the bottom, it said also inside a special message from you, from the editor, about the new Amazing Fantasy. And I always wondered what that message was. And I always wanted that book so I could flip to the letters page and see what that message was before it was ever reprinted. Just stupid little things like that from my childhood make me...
Right. Yeah. And it's a piece of history, and it's a piece of your history. But you got to realize there is a whole audience out there that has no idea of AF-15. Unless you're a comic book collector, you may not know about Amazing Fantasy number 15. You may think the first Spider-Man is Spider-Man number 1.
Peter Parker is this generation's Barry Allen.
Yeah. And, I have to say, you can't lose with either book, in my opinion. Both books have their merits. And if you've got 14 grand, God bless you, spend it on whichever one you find the most value in. And it's money well spent, in my opinion. And
Do you have a Djurjevic variant?
Yes, I do. I have a 9.6 Djurjevic version signed by Michael Bendis. So I do have that kind of horse in the race.
Is it a 9.6 like improvable, or is it always going to be a 9.6?
There is a spine tick on it that I think kind of holds it to 9.6. If we get to $30,000, I'll definitely try to get it pressed. But other than that, it's fine. It's for the PC. In all honesty, I'm a big Miles fan, as I've mentioned.
Of course.
So I'm not really overly concerned about selling it. I want to give another shout out to Tales from the Flip Side. Great guys, watch their show. This whole conversation is kind of a continuation of the conversation they were having. I just found it really compelling, and I wanted to get John's opinion on it.
Ripped shamelessly from our friend.
That's right.
The Modern Playbook. Thank you very much. Well, you know what? We've got all this talk about Wally West and the past and what we grew up with and 25-year rule. Oh, let's just do it. 25-year rule.
That's weak sauce for a segue. That.
Ryan, every week I got to come up with some way to transport us back to 1996. But here we are in 1996, and you are going to talk about a book that I knew this creative team before this book. They did a mini series a few years earlier for the Challengers of the Unknown. And I, being a big Kirby fan, I love the Challengers of the Unknown. And I was excited about this mini series by Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale. And then I read it. And it was like, I don't know what's going on. But this is a different book from that well-respected creative team. Take it away, Richard.
Yeah, our pick this week is Batman: The Long Halloween #1 from December of 1996. This is a book. It's a 13-part miniseries. Takes place in the early history of Batman. Batman is still in his formative years and still kind of getting a handle on being Batman. And it's the first book takes place in an environment where Harvey Dent is the district attorney, I believe it was.
He still has one face?
Yes, he still has one face.
Okay.
Yeah, he's one face, not two face yet.
Yeah.
And you got Catwoman and you got Batman. So you've got some of the major characters in the Batman mythos, and it's a more kind of gritty story than perhaps some of the more later stories in Batman. But the real compelling piece for this is this particular storyline has been picked up to be a actual 2-part animated film. Mm-hmm. So we're going to see this particular storyline. I'm not exactly sure how they're going to break it into 2 pieces, but we'll see how they actually do it. So DC is going to do this. So I'm assuming since it's DC, it's going to end up on HBO Max. But it's an interesting story. It is a long story. Be prepared for the whole thing if you're going to read it.
It is in the title.
Yeah, it is a long Halloween.
Long Halloween.
As far as the market goes, right now the CGC 9.8, the last sale was $438 for that 9.8. So it's a reasonably priced book in the scheme of kind of the crazinesses that we're seeing right now. There are only 381 books on the census, of which about 50% are 9.8. So it's not a rare book in 9.8s.
Wow.
Yeah. So if you're looking for one, now's a good time to buy it before we actually see the animated show. Animated shows, at least in my opinion, don't affect the overall value of the book as much as live shows do. We've seen quite a number of animated shows that both Marvel and Disney have done, or DC have done, and their books are buoyed up a little bit, but you don't see, the value go up for comparatively for a live movie or TV show. But still, it's a bump. Now's the time to invest in it if you're looking for it, or if you just are a fan of Batman books. This is a good pick to take a look at. So we should see the animated movie sometime by 2022. So it's not that far away. But yeah, so you have some time to be able to pick it up if you want to. But it's an interesting book, and I recommend that you read it just so you're prepared for the animated show when it comes out.
Speaking of DC Universe movies, the nominees for the Razzies came out today. If you're not aware of what the Razzie Awards are, they are the Golden Raspberry Awards, and they're handed out to the worst films of the year. And Wonder Woman 84 is nominated, and poor Kristen Wiig is nominated for Worst Supporting Actress.
Oh, that's too bad. I enjoyed the movie. I will not say that I thought it was earth-shaking or it was a nice kind of summer flick kind of thing.
And I didn't think Kristen Wiig was bad. I mean, she was given, but no, there you go.
I feel sorry for her. She did I thought an admirable job.
Showgirls won multiple Razzie Awards, and look where that film stands on the pantheon of American cinema now. So there you go. It's time for our underrated books of the week. I will start off this week. I love this book. It is Darkhold #1. Now, the Darkhold has had a hold of the Marvel Cinematic Universe for a few years now. You all may be familiar with it from WandaVision, but if you were like me and the other 6 people that continued watching Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. past season 1, you know that the Darkhold was a big part of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. for at least a season and really laid the groundwork for some of the MCU stuff to come. The Darkhold first appeared in Marvel Spotlight #4 with Werewolf by Night, and while that was the first appearance of this evil tome, this is the first comic book completely dedicated to the Darkhold and the evil it inflicts upon the Marvel Universe. This book originally came polybagged with a poster. It starred Vicky Montesi, sure. The first openly lesbian character to have the lead in a comic book series. Kind of important. And it was not a runaway success. It ran 16 issues. I will tell you, the first few issues with art by Doom Patrol's Richard Case, Doom Patrol had ended its run with Grant Morrison, so Richard kind of jumped over to Marvel and did this book. It's great. Great story by Chris Cooper, great writer. It had Modred, Scarlet Witch, Agatha Harkness. Sound familiar to anyone? And this book is finally getting a little bit of notice. A 9.8 was listed for $249 this week. It had a best offer accepted. I'm not sure what that best offer was. Meanwhile, a related character, Modred, who first appeared in Marvel Chillers #1, that sold in 9.8 this week for $2,699.99 to our friend Steven from Minor Keys Comics. Wow.
Big sale, right. Congratulations.
These supernatural books are moving up. For Darkhold #1, raw copies are very plentiful. You can still grab a good one on eBay fairly cheap, but the polybag copies are inching up to about $10, $15. That's up from about $4 or $5 a couple weeks ago. So people are taking note of Darkhold.
So, I mean, I'm trying not to spoil WandaVision, but if you haven't watched it yet, you should go and watch the last episode. In your opinion, John, do you think the Darkhold is going to have a piece of the MCU stories for, let's say, Multiverse of Madness?
I definitely think for Doctor Strange, sure. I think it's laying the groundwork for a few things. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., if you guys gave up on it, seriously, yeah, go on to Netflix. It's on Netflix. I believe it's on Hulu as well. If they haven't moved it over to Disney Plus, try getting past season 2. After season 2, it gets into a groove. It gets really good. You get Robbie Reyes as Ghost Rider. You get the Darkhold. You get Deathlock. You get really cool things. You get the Absorbing Man. You get some really cool stuff that I think everybody missed out because it can't, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. started out so strong in season 1. It was tied directly into the MCU. Events that happened in Civil War directly impacted the show. And then after season 1, they kind of moved away from that. And season 2 was really not good, but they really found their stride in season 3. And the Darkhold is a huge part of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So I do think they've been laying this groundwork for a few years now. And now, nothing is done haphazardly in the MCU.
This is true. I mean, Kevin Feige has a very good long-term vision for what the MCU is going to be at the end of his tenure. So
Vision.
So I see everything that, and that's why I think why everyone spends so much time analyzing frame by frame, episodes of WandaVision, because they know that everything that's in there has some particular reason for being there, and it makes it exciting. I have to say, Kevin Feige is the best thing that's happened to Marvel movies in a long time.
And there's all these rumors about the Midnight Suns coming to the MCU, and Darkhold was part of the Midnight Suns line, so there may be something there.
I hope so. My pick is an interesting pick. It's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles number 46 from 1992. This is from the original Mirage Studios run of Ninja Turtles. And it's the first appearance of Space Usagi Yojimbo, the samurai rabbit. He goes to space. This is important because there is a Netflix show coming called Samurai Rabbit: The Usagi Chronicles. This is a Usagi story told about a future relative of Usagi, who the quote is a show that mixes modern high-tech images with classic Japanese references. So it's going to be a science fiction-y Usagi, and the rumors are it's going to be Usagi in space. And to me, they've done that. Back in '92, they did a Usagi in space. So this first appearance in Turtles number 46 is after the end of the Turtle stories. There's some sketches, and they have a page that talks about the upcoming Space Yojimbo, Space Usagi book. There was a limited series book. It ran for 3 issues, and it is a book about Usagi in space. And for some reason, no one's really picking up on this particular book, or even Space Usagi. You can still pick up Space Usagi for $100 raw on eBay. And the reason I'm picking this is all of Usagi Yojimbo's books are just going out crazy. We got Albedo number 2, his first appearance. That book is crazy. That is
impossible now.
It is. It's impossible. If you don't have one now, you're going to pay at least you're going to pay big bucks to get it. Usagi Yojimbo number 1, which was for a long time also under appreciated in my opinion. It's at a 9.8 going for $2,000. You see crazy people listing it for $25,000 on eBay. Don't pay $25,000 for that. Please don't.
Buy an Ultimate Falcon 4 instead.
Yeah, you could buy like 2 of them. Yeah, 1 of each, actually, almost. There's value in Usagi as a character, and I think that's proven now. Stan Sakai is the creator of Usagi, has always supported this character, has always supported comic book fans, and I think this is his come up and is his due. They're making an animated show about his primary character, and I think the value of all these surrounding books are going to continue to go up as a greater audience finds and discovers Usagi, because he's been an independent character. If you're not a comic book fan, you probably don't know him. If you don't read Critters or the Albedo books, and he had his own run, and he still has his own run. But still, I don't think anyone outside of the comic book collecting hobby knows about him. They will once this Netflix show comes out. So this is, to me, this is a good buy. There's for Turtles number 46, is the first appearance. There are only 27 copies on the census total, of which 18 are 9.8. So it's not a rare book in 9.8, but it's a rare book, period. And you can get a 9.8 for $100. I have not seen a 9.8. There's only been 3 sales so far this year of this book. So it's a rare book in that in the graded capacity. You can find raws of this book for anywhere from $50 to $100 on eBay. So it's still acquirable as raws. And if you find a good candidate, I would slab it. And in anticipation of the first trailer for the show. I think once that first trailer comes out and you expose this samurai rabbit to or his ancestors, whatever. You expose the universe to Usagi Yojimbo. He's always been a favorite of mine. He's always been a favorite character of mine. He's got his own sense of morals, his own morals compass, his own sense of humanity, and wandering through 12th, 13th century Japan. It's always been an interesting backdrop to him as a character. So I'm excited that other people are going to experience him and to discover him. And at the same time, we'll see the values of some of these books go up as well.
Excellent pick. And that is going to do it for us this week. Thanks, everyone. Again, thanks every single one of you for helping us reach 1,000 subscribers. All you new viewers, we really appreciate you. Please leave us comments. Please tell us what you want us to talk about. Join us on Facebook and Instagram at Bronze and Modern Gods. And we will see you next time.
Everybody stay safe. And thank you. Thank you for subscribing.